just to give, you know, the proper homage to Gallup organization, they have theme insights cards. So you can pull them out easily and even hand that to the coachee to read. And I've seen that done. But often it depends on the circumstance of how you're going to coach, but that's another resource that's pretty inexpensive that's out there that you can get from Gallup directly. But that is one particular tool in their coaching kit. But I really, as I said about the expanding your strengths resource, that book is just amazing. I do not believe that it's available in hard copy, but the electronic version is great to have on your computer to be able to just click and it'll immediately take you through the pages of the book and bring it before you. And in there too are little clips of videos, and so with links. And so the video that we showed of the theme dynamics, in that chapter, it has a link where you can click on that and you can go to the YouTube page. And so that's another resource that you have to help you gain an understanding of the Strengthsfinders as well. They have the YouTube page, which is free. Again, just like when you go into your own top 5 and they have the little videos that you can click on, there are all 34 available online too. So that is another way in which you can continue to grow and maybe watch a couple of them a day, we all learn in different ways and commit things to memory. But all of that helps us by knowing that and hearing it and committing it to our own memory, allows us to be able to ask the more poignant questions of our coachees. And that will develop over time. I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to coach at this point. It's still the early stages for you, but it's, I'll tell you, don't be intimidated by having the resource in front of you and even looking at it. I think it also gives greater, it's okay to have the Cliff Notes in front of you. I think it also gives a greater sense of certainty on the part of the other person, that the coachee, that you can even show them what it tells them, and be something that you can share with them even in a link. So there are a lot of good resources out there. One of the other things that it really helps the client understand a little bit more about themselves, and you'll be able to recognize this too as you are coaching them, and that is that there is the raw talent, the baseline talent of what we're born with, and that we spend a lifetime investing skill and knowledge in developing. And so sometimes things are underdeveloped. And I think I mentioned this in the last webinar we had as well, that for various reasons, whether we just have never had an opportunity to use the talent, and so it's remained somewhat raw and underdeveloped, or maybe it's been suppressed for whatever reason, family of origin or workplace situation where we're not able to utilize it. As you're coaching someone, you're going to want to be looking for areas where it's been developed, or maybe it's been undeveloped. And also it's possible then to help them develop some strategies on how they might invest in that talent in a new way. And those coaching cards would help with that as well. And the book will help you be able to do that as well. But the idea that from a Christian perspective, we see it too as ongoing growth in holiness and conversion. We're becoming something that God dreamed us to be. We're becoming that best version of ourselves. And so this is where I think that the Christian tradition really melds well with Strengthsfinders as well, and gives another, like a scientific language to our faith language. And that is that the maturity of the coaching process, our helping of our clients through the coaching process will help them to mature and grow in their talents, and to, you know, allow it to be really fruitful. So the maturity of a talent is really based upon the investment that we put into it and the knowledge into our talents to really make it the strength. So a raw talent is not necessarily a strength, but when we add those particular, whether it's skill or knowledge to that talent, it's going to mature. And that really does, as in all things, take a lifetime really to to happen. Though that does happen in leaps and bounds at different times in our lives. And I think the earlier our coachees find that out in their life and are a little bit more reflective on it and are mentored in that, the more likely that's going to really soar as a strength early on. But it's going to always continue to evolve. And with that is how we learn how to modify those talents too. So a strength is learning how to modify that raw talent as well, how the talents work together. So after like the initial coaching sessions of kind of going through and seeing if they accept and understand the discovery of what those talents are, this might be one of the ways in which that coaching relationship would continue. And so in the last session that we had, I talked about the bridge that you, like the notes that you take, and it's important to kind of look at those in between sessions so that you can, and pray again, but pray over those as you embark on the next coaching session with someone. Sometimes people don't want more than just kind of getting the bare bones of, this is who I am, and this is, let me like just wrestle with, here are my talents. But sometimes that coaching relationship can go on further, and these are some of the tools that can help you do that. And that's where the coaching is asking the important questions, and it's hard to say exactly what those important questions are until you're just listening very closely to the person, that their story, and taking into consideration these tools. And so it'll come over time, and you'll develop that skill over time. But initially, you may want to have these readily available. And even as I've begun to commit them to heart, I realize sometimes that I need to stop and go back and read them again myself, and just recollect a little bit on what they really mean and how the dynamics work. Because the sky's the limit. There are when we look at the top 5, the possibility of someone having the same top 5 as us is like, what I think it's 1 in 135,000, and that only gets more complex as you start combining the themes all together. So looking at how that might work, I think it's going to be a constant study on our part as coaches to continue to learn about the Strengthsfinders tool, how they work together, but also, learning about our own self and how the depth of this works for us, so that we don't get in the way of our coaching session either, or project our own talents onto someone else. Mm-hmm. So that's where it can be very helpful too. So where I would start with this is to really look at yourself at this point and your top 5 talents. And if you were to look into these resources, that to see what that dynamic is. And as someone who kept wanting to know more about this and about themselves, I couldn't help but go ahead and buy the book myself, just to be able to see how all this works together and get to the heart of it.
So I have a question. You started by talking about or you sort of finished by talking about early coaching versus late coaching. And I like that thinking, because like you said, not everyone wants to go forward. So if it does advance, it's more the importance of the deeper questions, the theme dynamics, and the talent maturity.
Yes.
So here's my question. I know you just said the tools that we've discussed. If you don't go that direction, and we're talking about from the Human Formation Coalition doing the APEST, if someone just goes to early coaching and just thinks that they're complete, and you can read from their signs, would you then suggest that you go on to APEST right away? I know we'll talk about that in the future, but go ahead and suggest that right away.
Yeah, they can go easily side by side. So I would suggest it right away, especially because sometimes it can be another way in which you can begin to see some of how the talents meld again with the APEST theme, and that will also help you gain some added conversation and story from the client themselves, and that will help you to be able to probe a little bit deeper too. even if you don't purchase this book on the Strengthsfinder. So yeah, it's definitely A-Test is going to be the next step of one of the webinars that we're going to look at, to just see a little bit more so how the dynamic of the two go together. But certainly moving right on to that would be fine too, as a next step.
Right. And this book does look terrific. I agree with what Paul said. This book and these theme interactions, theme dynamics, it looks terrific. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And it really does, it will shine light on the APEST as well, because you'll be able to probe a little bit more deeply and help them to see things there too. So it is a partnership between the two resources. Yes.
I had a comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
Well, first, I just wanted to say I appreciate these webinars. They've been very helpful for me. And then this is just sort of, I guess, maybe the way I'm wired. I wound up taking my APES 2 times because I didn't believe the results the first time. And it came back the top 3 exactly as it had said, and then the bottom 2 switched places. I was curious if you've ever known, or you yourself or anybody has taken the Strengthsfinders more than once, and what the results of that might, do they change much? Have you heard of anyone doing it?
That is an amazing question, because that comes up at times, and I've heard stories where people didn't like their results the first time, and so they took it over 10 times until they got what they wanted, which is a whole other issue. But I myself, in different times of my life, and when Strengthsfinders had been introduced to me, like even 10 years ago, before I was coached or anything about that, I took it, and then I took it again more recently, and I was able to also take the full 34, and things did change around a little bit, but not so much when you consider that the top 10 are probably your signature themes. So the top 5 are part of that. So they moved around a little bit, but there were still consistencies. So like 3 of the top 5 stayed the same, but the other 2 maybe moved down a little bit lower, and 2 other ones came up. And I discovered what that was and what that meant when I saw the full 34. Because of how that works. So, but I've had people who have taken the assessment, and they said, well, I don't think this is me. And sometimes that's where the coaching really helps. They're like, I want to take it over again. And one of the people I talked to said that, this was me, 10 years ago. This isn't me now. But through the coaching, we discovered that some of that talent through life circumstances she had to set it aside and not be able to live it. And so it was part of the coaching was revealing, how do you embrace that again? How do you really be who you are? Now recently I had someone again who took it, and they said, I was so confused in taking the assessment that answering the questions that I didn't, I don't think I missed so many. I just want to take it over. And when it really came down to it, I think it would have been fine, but I wanted to reassure her and make her feel confident that she felt confident with the results. And so I said, go ahead and take it again. And she did. And it was, there were some differences in the top 5. So I'm not sure, I can't speak to what happened there, and that's where you can, kind of feel over. Now it's $20 a shot, usually 15, 20 a shot. So you have to really want to change the results to really, and that's a whole nother issue. But yeah, that it does change a little bit, but essentially not so, because the top 10, they just moved them around a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we are at almost 1 o'clock. That concludes our webinar. God bless you.